Welcome to the realm of magic and mystery, classic horror and sci-fi. You are now entering the House of the Unusual podcast with your hosts, Eddie and Joe. Welcome everybody once again to the House of the Unusual podcast. I'm your host, Joe Pavlansky, and co-hosting with me as always is the maestro of mail order mysteries, Eddie Guevara. Today's returning guest is the one, the only, Chuck Caputo.
All
Chuck,
right.
brother, how's it going?
Okay, pretty good, Joe. It's great being here again, man. I've been doing a lot of yard work out here in Pittsburgh. It's been raining a lot, then it's got sunny, and the weeds grew like crazy.
Yeah, I hear you. We've had some storms today, lost some power and all that throughout the area, and hopefully it dries up a little bit. So,
yeah.
What's new on your end? What's new in the magic world? Anything?
You know what? Keeping busy doing some shows. I've been building a few things. There's a little miniature haunted house that I just built based on the barbell courses. I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, Joe, but it's like a style of magic. There's a 8-volume course written by Harlan Tarbell way back in the 1920s. I mean, they have everything in there from cards, cigarettes, coins, ropes, name it, it's in there. And one thing in volume 4 is his little miniature haunted house that has a rising card effect in there where the card rises out of the chimney. And so I actually built a few of those, like I've been working on it for about the last week and a half. And you know what? It's on YouTube. So if you have a chance, check it out. It's under my her heading, which is Sherry Caputo, Cheri, and we just uploaded it. So if you want to check out the video sometime, you know what? I make short videos. I don't make long ones. The whole thing's probably maybe 3.5 minutes, but it's really cool.
Awesome, good deal. So, moving on to Eddie, what's new over at the House of the Unusual in the world of Eddie Guevara?
Well, I'll tell you what, Joe, I'm very excited because I think we're almost ready for the completion of the first actual magic trick from the horror magic series on the Chuck Caputo magic.
All right.
And, the box is the only thing now that we're getting all together. So the trick should be finished within the next 2 weeks because it does take some time for the printing of the boxes and stuff. But I got to tell you one thing, and it's really exciting. And the best part, Joe, is I think you're one of the actors on the cover. It's fascinating.
Oh man, he did a great job on there. I'm telling you, it's fantastic. Oh my goodness.
I mean, you're going to be on every box, Joe. We're going to keep you. Right? We'll make you very famous, man. You'll be world renowned.
Now, you want to sell these magic tricks, right? Not scare people away from them.
Well, that's the idea. It's a horror magic, so you got to put the scare in them, right?
I guess, yeah.
Well, better than Joe,
Wow.
The poor guy,
Somebody's faces Joe makes is unbelievable, man. I was cracking up.
I mean, it feels like he's being tormented beyond,
Yeah, I don't remember when that photo was taken. I think my wife took it of me. We were messing around, or so I don't remember, but yeah, that's pretty comical.
It's I've never seen anything that good. It's like really good,
Oh, it's great.
It's like Photoshop to me, but it's not. That's what's so funny. It's a real photo. What I was going to say, basically, one of the things, Chuck, and I noticed, how does it look out there? You getting a lot of shows now every week, or just?
Yeah. They're opening up pretty good. You know what? I got a few booked this weekend, and there's a lot of people that are inquiring about different shows. Most are taking place outdoors. I don't know if people are still kind of leery about getting inside, but I've been doing a lot of private parties, and they've been out in the backyard, believe it or not. So I've been burning up out there roasting, man. I think it was last Saturday or Sunday. It was like 95 degrees out here. It was sunny. Yeah, it was crazy, but I have to take it where they get me. So that's the way it goes.
One thing that I found, I asked you that question because I noticed I was trying to reach out to Mike Mesmer, and he's got a lot of entertainment to do. I mean, he's traveling all over the country.
Yeah.
This guy's like, so I guess the venues are opening up for a lot of magicians out there, which is good because it brings us back to what we're doing. We're going to introduce a whole line of products,
Right.
We need people to be out there so they can perform the magic tricks we sell,
Exactly.
And the whole thing is just basically that I'm excited. I'm excited everything that's happening, and now I wanted to bring something that I thought was interesting. We talked about a week ago. I think we were talking about like non-fungible tokens and the world of crypto coins and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe, you mentioned that somebody had sold over in Europe an invisible statue.
Yeah, the Italian artist. Yeah, he sold for like 18,000 or something like that.
Yeah, 18,000, so many pounds, but it's equivalent to 18. You know what's so funny about it that I found interesting? The way he described it. He says, since, empty space in a sense has energy and energy has weight, therefore it's something.
Wow.
Yeah, anything to sell, I guess nothing.
Wow.
I mean, it's crazy that somebody would even pay $18,000 for it. I mean, that's ridiculous. But
yeah, I mean, there's somebody out there who always, I guess, buy something. I don't know if they think that it's, I don't know, maybe fashionable or whatnot to buy that and put it on social media. So I don't know what would be the reasoning behind that to buy nothing. I mean, basically, they got a certificate, so you paid 18,000 for a certificate.
Yeah, well, here's the thing that you kind of failed to see, Joe. I sent you a box of nothing a couple of weeks ago, or maybe 2 months, 3 months ago, and you threw yours out, and Todd saved his. So when we become famous, Todd can always sell it for a few $1,000s. The box of nothing, it's
yeah. Hey, I see some crazy things on eBay. Sometimes they got a piece of toast that has a face in it, like Elmer Fudd and Jesus, and these things go for thousands of dollars, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. But the best part is when you're selling nothing. Like I see this box. This is the perfect mail order item. It's everything you dream of in a box.
That's
when
crazy.
you open it, there's nothing. So you can imagine whatever you want.
Yeah, somebody just sold. I see an article. Somebody sold a chicken nugget that looked like a character from some type of mobile game or something, and it sold for thousands of dollars. I'm like, are you kidding me?
That's unbelievable.
Some guy is advertising a cheese doodle that looks like Superman flying. I mean, but it's funny that they actually would put such a price tag on something that stupid. I mean,
that's crazy.
It is crazy. But you know what's even more crazy? That the people have actually paid for it.
Yeah. I mean, if they got that much money, they want to get rid of, man.
Yeah, they got too much.
Get a hold of me, and I'll take that money out.
There you go.
I can put it to good use.
Exactly. We can buy more magazines and more books.
Yeah, more of anything.
One of the topics too that I found interesting. I was watching on YouTube. Talking about that. There's a guy. Oh gosh, I think his name is like P100. He has like a weird coat or something. He wears spandex, like the old-fashioned. He looks like an old-fashioned teacher from the 50s, and he's always teaching about science. And he'll talk about the size of the Earth or time travel, and they're pretty good videos. I forgot exactly the name, but he had one called The Paradox of Time, and he went on to explain Albert Einstein's theory of relativity. And how time can fold and how you can get maybe to point A to point B. But I thought what I found fascinating about it is that where he went on to explain, and of course this is part of the theory of relativity. Like say, for example, you would wear a watch in your wrist. The closer you are to gravity, I think if I'm correct, the faster time travels.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you're standing up now. So you wear a watch on your ankle, and you would wear one on your wrist, and you would go say 100, 200 years, and there would be a difference in time between the one in your wrist and the one in your ankle. And same thing with I think some scientists took and put 3 atomic watches at the same exact time and went around the globe. I think it was 3 times in a plane, and there was all 3 watches were actually different at different times. So that tells you in a sense that the theory of relativity is pretty true, in most of the stuff. And then it brings us back to the same thing, when you guys talk about flying saucers, and supposing they were from a different world, which I doubt very much, but the traveling could be done through some type of time bending, or as they called it wormholes and stuff like that in space. where the fabric of time can actually be bent. I think there is some, right now I don't remember, Joe. I mean, if you're using a computer, you could probably, but there is something in the theory of relativity. Will say, for example, say you throw a football or something, and you're looking on a television. If you look really close, as the ball is flying through the air, especially if it's an LCD or plasma TV, you kind of see a little greenish like darkness behind the ball as it travels. So let's say when the Earth spins around in space, the blackness of space kind of like folds a little bit as the Earth spins. There's something like that. I believe that's I remember seeing that or hearing that in because I always watch the science shows and stuff like that. But what the reason I just brought up the topic is because you know how recently, I forget when it is, what time this year the government is supposed to release all the information they have about UFOs. Am I correct?
Yeah,
When is that supposed to happen?
I think
I
it's
believe
supposed to. I think it's supposed. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's sometime towards the end of this month, next week or so, something like that. I can't remember the exact date. I know that there's been a little some stuff leaked online, but nothing really, earth shattering. Which I know we've talked before, and I don't really believe there's going to be anything too, earth shattering. I think it's going to be all a bunch of like them almost like beating around the bush and not really giving a straight answer on anything, just like the government typically does.
Right, right.
That's kind of my take on it, but I guess we'll see what happens, but I'm not getting my hopes up too much on it, and a lot of like the podcasts I listen to where they talk a lot of UFOs and stuff, that everyone seems to be on the same page. They're not getting their hopes up for it because anytime the government releases stuff, they always, they don't give us a straight answer on anything.
Yeah, that's true. That's
But
true.
you know
Hey,
what I would.
but that's an
What's up?
interesting. That's an interesting subject, Eddie, about the time travel. I've always been fascinated with that, and I know when Einstein came out with the theory of relativity, that was groundbreaking. And you know what the speculation is that if these UFOs do exist, guys like Bob Lazar said that they use a different propulsion system. It isn't the stuff we have where we sit on, tens of thousands of tons of highly volatile, uh, you know, uh, we set on fire. I mean, these things supposed to run on a nuclear type of thing, and they do go into wormholes. I mean, Stephen Hawking theorized that the wormholes are used if this is true. I think he said positive ions come out of the wormholes. So I mean, who knows? I mean, there's things that we just do not know. I mean, I'm open minded about this. Type
You
of
know,
stuff.
I was just listening to another podcast that they were talking about basically time, and the one guy was saying how that there's really no such thing as present time. Everything's either past or it's future. You can't define the present because, like you said, if you say, well, what is the present? Is it a second? Well, you could
Right.
break down second pretty much infinitely and go smaller and smaller. So there really is no present time. It's either it already happened or it's going to happen. I thought that was pretty
Right.
interesting.
Sure.
there's a video on YouTube called "The Paradox of Time." Now, I think that's the name I gave to the one I told you with the science, but there's just another, and there's a guy there that looks like the Amazing Randy, a bull-headed guy with a beard, and he explains, the thing with the paradox of time. It's about 35 minutes, and let me tell you, it's fascinating
I'm gonna have
because
to check this out. Wow.
it says right now, supposing when you're young, time passes fast. So it goes on to explain in a sense that time itself doesn't really, that's kind of like an illusion because when you get older, time is faster than when you were younger. Or say, for example, vice versa. Or if you're in a plane, your time is traveling faster than if you're, standing still. Or, to a person, 5 minutes would have gone by real quick while another person is waiting and the 5 minutes take longer. So, it goes on to explain all the different, there's names for the different segments in time. And this guy was explaining it down to a T. Let me tell you, it's really a fascinating video. I was watching it, and there is another guy. This fellow, I forgot what it is. He says that he could build a time machine. I don't know if you guys remember that. About 2 or 3 years ago, he was on the on YouTube, and he was explaining how you can possibly build one. Now, the question that we ask is this: if, like for example, and this is with the theory of relativity, light travels at, I think it's 286,000 miles per second or
One
something like that.
186.
186.
Yeah, 186,000 miles per second. Yep.
Okay, it's 186,000 miles per second. You sure, Chuck, is not a little more than that?
No, I believe that's it.
I could have sworn it was 286. Well, anyway,
Check it out, Joe.
thing,
I'm looking at.
I believe it's 186.
Let me see. It is 299,792,458 meters per second.
Joe, we're not in Europe, Joe.
Yeah.
Give us inches and miles.
It would be, well, miles per hour, it would be 671 million miles per hour. It'd be 186,000 miles per second.
Yeah.
So I guess Chuck was right. You know, Chuck, you blew me away. I thought it was a little more.
You don't know, you can't do meters? See, I've been doing meters for ever.
Man, let me tell you something. Back in school, when they were trying to, back in the 70s, they were trying to convert us to the metric system.
I remember that.
I could never do it. I never, in fact, I think they gave up because nobody actually got it.
Nobody got it. I know the whole thing is based on tens, right? Based on 10.
Yeah, you know what? I spent all the time in the military, and you use meters and kilometers on it. So that's kind of, what I was used to for about 9 years. So it kind of, I mean, I could do both. And if you tell me, 100 meters, I could say, yeah, that's 100 meters or 200 meters. So, I mean, some people do it, but either way, either or.
I remember trying, and they even made me buy a ruler that was a converted inches to the metric system.
I remember that.
By 1980, they weren't even teaching it in schools anymore. I think it was they just gave it up,
They gave
But yeah, they probably say, "Hey, America's too stupid to convert." But you know what? I don't know what I mean, I know they say some is easier. To me, it's the same thing. You got inches, half an inch, and then you got meters, and centimeters. In reality, it's like the same thing, different names,
That's right.
But what I was going to say, though, is when you see everything like that with the measuring, they say that if the light was to just slow down by 0.0, I think you go to 15.0.1. So it's like 0.0000001, something like that. It would cause chaos in the universe if just light slowed down by that much.
Wow.
That's how precise
it's
the universe is in everything, and how everything just, works among. It's like kind of like the moon. Purpose of the moon is to keep us seasons, waves. It helps the earth basically have seasons, and the war. Everything that happens to the earth. It's, if you take away Jupiter is like a big giant garbage can that God just put there, that anything that's going to hit the earth will either get absorbed by Jupiter or Saturn. They're just basically there to take the blunk of all the meteors. I mean, if you guys remember a few years ago, that was so exciting because I was watching that, like when that one comet got close to Jupiter and Jupiter sucked it in, and then part of the comet actually dropped into the planet, and they actually were able to catch in a telescope as it hit the atmosphere and probably caused a hole the size of the earth in the clouds. And that was fascinating because they were able to catch that. I mean, that was a chance of 1 million in a lifetime, and they were able to get it actually through a telescope as it was happening. But if that would have hit the earth, we would have been wiped away. So everything within the universe is really interesting. So when you talk about, if you really look at it, we send, when we go, let's say we send to Mars, those space rovers or space, orbiters. We, the things we send up. What's the name? Oh my God, I just forget the space probes. They set up the space probes.
Sure.
They use the slingshot effect, which basically they use the gravitational pull of the planets so that when, let's say, one thing is going to go to Mars, it'll spin around the Earth like 3 times, then it'll go towards the sun, then it slingshots into space, and then, you know what I'm saying? And that's amazing with the precision that they can do that. So even if you had, say, people in other planets or flying saucers or stuff that would be able to use that propulsion thing, you know. Now the question you also have to ask yourself, especially for all those people that, you know, they figure out we got Alpha Centauri. And Alpha Centauri is 3 point something light years away from Earth. That's our closest star, which is very popular in the minds of many people our age, because that's where the Jupiter 2 from Lost in Space was always trying to reach.
Right.
They were going, we need to go to Alpha Centauri, you know. And the hope was that there was a planet like Earth up there, and, you know, and it would be phenomenal to get there. The thing with it is that if you were to travel at the speed of light, this is something a lot of people don't think about, and you're in a rocket ship, whatever, you're traveling at the speed of light, and there is a pebble the size of a marble in space, and you hit it, you know, you'll be destroyed. You'll be blown to smithereens.
Not good. Yeah, not good.
So, you know, the fact is, if you can travel, there's so much things in space traveling that there's a good chance you're going to hit something.
Oh, absolutely.
So that brings to question is the fact of reality versus, you know, science fiction. Is it possible? Would it be possible for another planet to have life? And that life, I mean, I'm not saying planets don't have life, but when you look at the distance in space, unless, like I said, wormholes and stuff like that exist and we can't see it, the chances of any, I don't care how advanced the civilization is, to be able to travel from a star to here, it's kind of like more in the realms of science fiction now.
Right.
Is it possible for us to have UFOs and stuff like that are top secret projects from other countries or the United States themselves? Yeah, that's where I believe UFOs come from. That's my personal belief in it, you know. Right now, all of a sudden, the governments are, especially the United States, are showing this weird objects that the Navy saw, and they say, you know, these are actual UFOs. They went to the ocean. Well, you know, it could, you know, the point is that why are they revealing it now after so many years? Why have they kept it secret? Why is now all of a sudden
that's true?
This is becoming, you know, what's the agenda?
Yeah, there's something. Yeah, you're right. How come? Why all quiet for 60, 70 years? Now all of a sudden they're bringing everything out. I know exactly what you're saying.
Right. And then here's the thing that's interesting too. When Bill Clinton became president, one of the things he swore he was going to get to the bottom of the UFO stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, I saw him talking, I think it was Saturday Night Live. I forget what he was on, or Jay Leno. And they asked him, he goes, hey, listen, guys, the first thing I did when I became a president is I wanted to go to Area 51 and see if that. And technically, he said, I found nothing. There was nothing, you know. So my question is, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, years and years, people have been trying to hit the government to disclose unknown UFOs. And all of a sudden now, within months, you know, movies are appearing that we have actually had UFOs, or we tracked UFOs with vehicles that we don't have the technology of going in. It's on Fox News. It's kind of like all of a sudden, and then, you know, we have now the United States saying that they're going to release so many, you know, and Joe, you being a UFO, an actual UFO investigator, you're a guy that traveled the world, you know, doing your research. What do you have to say for this, Joe? You're pretty quiet in this.
I don't know why they're maybe releasing it. I'm sure there's
Joe, tell us the secret, Joe. What's the truth, Joe?
I think the truth is that there's stuff out there, because with the internet, social media, that there's more and more being shown, and, you know, from other countries and UFO. unexplained stuff that they're kind of almost put in a corner where they have to make some type of move and release some type of information. And like I said, that they're going to release the information enough to basically shut people up and, give them something to talk about. Because us as a people, we have a very limited attention span. So it'll be big news for a little while, and then people will forget about it, and the government will say, well, yeah, this is all we know. But we know that they don't tell us the truth, that they lie, tell us half truths. So who knows, even if what they are going to release is, is it true? Is it half truth? Is there lies in it? We don't know. And there's pretty much no way to do it. They tell us, well, we don't know where. Here, the thing is, like, when I watch these videos, and I think we've touched on this before, is that you have these videos coming from the Navy. Now, the Navy is the premier part of the military, because they are able to travel. They're all over the world. They travel the world. Most of the earth is made up of water, so they're pretty much everywhere, and they have the most advanced technology on their ships, especially the carriers and all of that. Their surveillance, everything is top of the line. You can't get any better than that. But they release videos that looks like I could take a better video on my cell phone.
Yeah, that's a good point, Joe. Yeah, that's the same that's the same with the Bigfoot videos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always a shaky, grainy type of video that it doesn't really you really can't see too much. It's weird. I don't get it, man.
Yeah, so I think that they know what it is, but they're playing it safe and not telling us, or they may have an idea, but they're always going to tell us. They're always going to give us some type of misinformation, especially if they don't know. Never in the history has the government come on and said, we don't know what it is. And
yeah, right.
Well, they don't say that because it makes them look bad, and then it'll have people questioning, well, why are we giving you all this money for all this surveillance on that, and you don't know what it is? The government will never say they know what it is, and if they don't know, they're not going to come out and say we don't know what it is. And if they do say we don't know what it is, to me, it's misinformation, that they know what it is, but they don't want to tell us, whether it's from another country or from another planet or whatnot. They have an idea, but they're not going to tell us. They're going to give us those half truths. Let us talk about, there's a lot of, stories throughout UFO history that the government has actually put out there that they knew that it was, other countries, but they put it out for, saying that it's UFOs, that it's this and that. So that way people can say, well, it's these people from other planets, the conspiracy theories could go off. So it's kind of like you're looking to the left, but the government is over here on the right, doing their thing. So they don't want you in their business. They know where it's from. And I tend not to believe everything that they're going to tell us and take it with a grain of salt. And I kind of recommend that to everyone that's, looking into it. Take it with a grain of salt. You're dealing with, the people that are putting this out. They're professionals in their job of, espionage, half truths, putting out misinformation, showing the public one area while they're messing around in another area. So you got to kind of really, really look at the information and really do some critical thinking, ask a ton of questions. And if the questions aren't getting answered, then, you got to keep doing some more digging and ask, why aren't these questions being answered?
Right.
Just like with the videos, you're getting these videos from these aircrafts carriers and all that from the Navy who have top of the line surveillance video. They have access to satellites that could see the year from space, but yet they're giving us these grainy videos of UFOs that I could have shot better with my old cell phone. But yet nobody's questioning that.
I agree.
I don't understand. They know exactly. I think what's going on there. That's kind of my take on it.
I think, Joe, maybe that's the distortions you're getting, is because maybe you are surrounded by UFOs and they're looking over your house, and you're not even noticing.
I wish, man. Take me away.
They're gonna suck you away. That's why they cry. That's why, actually, like they say, time is an illusion. You're really not talking to us on the radio. You're on that picture screaming.
Yeah. And what I thought was funny is that I think they came out with a press release, a few days ago or whatnot. They said, well, we don't think it's aliens, but we don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. To me, that's a bunch of BS. There's no time in history has the government admitted they don't know what something is. Mm-hmm. If they're telling us they don't know what it is, they know what it is, and they want us to develop our conspiracy theories and to go in whatever kind of different direction. Because if they came on and said, yes, we know exactly what this is, but we're not telling you, that's going to cause an uproar.
Oh, people be mad. But, yeah.
If they say, well, we know this is coming from outer space, that's going to cause an uproar. If they say this is advanced technology that's coming from China or Russia, that's going to cause an uproar. So their only safe bet is to say, we don't think it's we don't think it's aliens, but it's no technology that we have. That's not an answer,
Right.
One thing I'm gonna tell you though, especially you see, look at this. I'm getting like a double voice here.
You're getting feedback, yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting. So that's my question. You see, I'm telling you, there's aliens already here. We just don't see them. No, Joe. You know what, Joe? I agree with what you're saying, and especially like you said. Why are they always giving us this crazy, grainy film that a little kid in one of those 1980 Super 8, VHS tapes get better, or a video recorder?
Because you know what, if you have a little kid who says, I want candy, and you have a whole candy bar, and you're like, you know what, I don't want to give him this candy bar, but I got to shut him up some way. But I'm going to give him this little bite-sized Snickers, but I'm going to hold on to the king-size Snickers. And you give the little kid the bite-sized Snickers, and he eats it, and he shuts up. But you still have the big chunk. You still have the good candy. That's what the government's doing. They'll give you little bits, but they're holding on to the good juicy stuff. And and it's just enough to shut us up, to get us talking, to get once the and I love looking into conspiracy theories and all that, but there's a certain point where I think they become dangerous because they get blown out of proportion, and then critical thinking goes out the window, and it just goes all this crazy nonsense. And that's what they're planning on, because you had the whole QAnon thing where these people went crazy with conspiracy theories. So that's what's going to happen here. They're saying, well, it could be aliens, but it's not. And now you read stories that people are running crazy, with it, when it's a much simpler answer, but they're just not giving it.
Joe, they're going to do that. Joe, look at this thing right now. There's actually things going on the internet saying that President Trump is supposed to become president again before July 4th. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean,
critical thinking has gone out the window.
It's gone. It's
gone. But the best part is that the people that charade this, the people that do this, are people that are actually on the internet saying they work with the army. They work, and there's people that just believe all this stuff. But
that's also a big part of government, and like the CIA is putting out disinformation. That's a huge part of what they do is disinformation campaigns. That was put out
with a purpose, because
one of the biggest ones was Watergate, when they put out so much disinformation out there and started attacking conspiracy theorists, asking questions about Watergate. It got to so many crazy stories when it was a much simpler answer. And then, finally, years later, after it was declassified and everything, that some of the conspiracy theories were correct, but you had so many in that mix that nobody knew what was going on, and critical thinking went out the window. And that's what's happening here.
Oh, I'm getting today's some feedback here. I'm going to tell you something that
that sounds kind of cool.
I think I think I'm being. Oh, help! I'm being.
He's gone.
I was watching,
take your tinfoil hat off.
Yeah,
I have to, man. I got probes coming down my back right now. Just it's tormenting me. Joe, and Chuck, let me tell you something. It's kind of like when you say misinformation. we heard and we've seen movies on the subject called The Man in the Iron Mask. Now, the true story of this was back in 1660 something in a jail. There was a guy that was brought in, and they, whatever this prisoner to this day is like, they say some people are famous. We have famous people all the time throughout generations, but there's a few that are famous, renowned all over the world, but no one really knows exactly who they are. One was Jack the Ripper. To this day, we really don't know who Jack the Ripper was.
No, you're right.
The other one is the Man in the Iron Mask. Now, I forgot the name of the person who kind of wrote about there was some guy who, I guess, in time and everything, whatever, he was a writer, whatever at the time, and they threw him in jail because he made some fun of the prime minister or something of France. And in the jail, he heard about a guy that had been there, that had died there. There was a prisoner that was brought in. It was such a private thing that the prisoner, they actually put 6 doors between where he was locked up and the rest of the rest of the prison, because whatever the prisoner or whoever he was, there was orders that if he was to talk, they were to shoot him on sight. And I believe what they did is when they transfer him between cells or whatever, they put a velvet cloth over his head so that people wouldn't see his identity. To this day, we really don't know who the prisoner was. But the funny thing about it is that the writer who heard about it, he, for some reason in his writing, added an iron mask, which in reality, the guy never wore an iron mask. And throughout generations, the Man in the Iron Mask became a legend. But we really don't know who that person ever really was. We don't know why this prisoner or who he was, that nobody knew. And it was so, such a strange thing. I mean, you can look this up. There's another video again with this guy, the science guy, that was telling about how people, are famous and some people, and he mentioned the story of the guy in the iron mask. And the point I'm trying to say with that is just that's how they add to the stories, and it becomes, bigger than it's now. I'm not saying that I believe this is 100% because I knew the person, but we're talking about the famous magician from Morris Costumes, okay, Philip Morris. He came out on A&E, and he had said that in 1968 or 69, he talked about the Patterson film with the Bigfoot thing where he's looking back,
Right.
where he actually gave or rented the costume to the guy who went out and filmed it. And then for whatever reason, it started the Bigfoot legend from there. All of a sudden, that in fact they gave the wife, the widow of the guy, I believe they gave him almost $1 million for the 1 minute film, the actual footage.
Wow.
So that is something. And here again, you've never, I mean, how many times, and this is retarded, those TV shows like the History Channel puts hunting Bigfoot and stuff. Every single day they see a Bigfoot. For Pete's sake. So they go, oh, there's one there. Oh, well, if there were, how come there's no photographs of it? How come now with everybody having cell phones that everybody can take movies and pictures?
Yeah.
We're lacking 2 things today. We're lacking actual UFO photographs. You don't see that many people photographing actual UFOs. Yeah, when they do film them, when they do photograph them, they're from the 1980s or 2000s, where the footage is very bad. You can't see what the hell you're looking at. And like you said, with everybody having cell phones, we have cell phones since 2000. 2000, so why is it that we're not getting all this stuff or pictures today? And even when the government comes out, like you said, they can read a postage stamp from space, but yet we get a grainy picture that your great grandmother can take. You know what I'm saying? So that's my question. My question is, it's retarded that all these legends and all this stuff, but yet from even this ghost hunting stupid shows on TV, there is absolutely no evidence that they can show tangible evidence that says, look, without a shadow of a doubt, here we have a UFO picture, here we have this. And now let's say, man, there's 6 billion people in the planet. At any time we are traveling, how many flights? I mean, I think LaGuardia Airport in New York does like 5,000 flights a day. not counting Kennedy, Newark Airport. We're like in the vicinity of the largest airports and population in the world. And all those planes and everything, no one ever spots a UFO. And when they do, yeah, it comes out in the news. Like recently, just like the guy in the Las Vegas airport where he was flying a jetpack, which I believe that's the guy that bought the plans from me years ago. He must have, I can't prove it, but I'll bet you that damn guy is up there flying my jet. But the whole thing is that it's happened. There's happening, but we're lacking enough people coming forward with, hey, I just saw this. And let's be honest, there's people out there, and I know this is a fact because I even did it. I put a camera facing New York City on time lapse for 24 hours. You mean to say, you know what I'm trying to say? That if there's anything strange, somebody's bound to capture it. So yeah, I'm kind of like wondering what the heck the government is going to come up with. I don't really think it's going to be much of what we have. I mean, look at this show that was on TV. I don't know if it's still being played. Alan Alejandro, I think was his name or something like that. He said he worked for the government and he was going to expose what the government had. Do you remember the show I'm talking about, Joe?
No,
Yeah, the show, it was called UFOs or Government and UFOs. It was in the History Channel last year.
Hmm.
No, I don't remember. I didn't see that.
I think his name is Alejandro or something like that.
Hmm.
He supposedly worked and they did like 8 shows. They were researching and he was coming out with, saying that the government had seen this and they didn't want to say this. But you got to take that also with a grain of salt because as when the show aired and everything, then they started scrutinizing the guy, and checking out his background, all this stuff. And I think he had some type of deal with the History Channel or something. But here's one thing that I'm going to explain to you guys. Not last year, about 2 or 3 years ago, I watched a special on the History Channel about actual mermaids. And they made this documentary so realistic. And I think we spoke about this before.
Yeah.
I actually thought it was real. And I said, oh my God, look at that. And then at the end of the thing, I didn't even notice the credits because I turned it off. They said about a week later that the History Channel got in trouble because it was all fake. They actually faked the whole 1-hour episode of mermaids.
Isn't that crazy? Wow.
Joe, I have an actual picture of a mermaid. Would you be interested in buying it?
Absolutely. If it's coming from you, I know it's real.
It's accurate.
But what's your take?
I've seen a lot of credible evidence for UFO stuff, during investigations and all that, pictures, and I've also seen a lot of photos where people swear it's UFOs and it's light reflecting off of a window, or it's the moon behind the clouds, or a very bright star. There is some credible photos out there, but I don't think you're ever going to get anything coming from the government that's credible and that says that yes, this is a UFO. Because like I said, if they're going to put out a picture, they either have to tell us they don't know what it is, which they're not going to do, or they have to tell us they do know what it is, but they're not going to tell us. And that, like I said, that's going to cause an uproar. So you're never going to get a straight answer from them. The best thing to do is to find, some other credible avenues like MUFON or the I know there's a few other UFO investigative groups out there that actually have photos that have been vetted that will show some of these unidentified objects. And then, there's some pretty interesting ones out there, but like I said, when you see those, you have to use some critical thinking, because just because it's unidentified, it doesn't mean that it's little green men from another planet. It could be a whole of
Right.
answer to
Absolutely.
it. Like I said, there has to be some critical thinking in all of this stuff.
Well, right now, are you aware of the fact that I think we're going back to Venus again? They're sending a probe, if I'm correct. If Russia beat us on the race to Venus back in the 1970s, I think it was. They were the first people to actually land a probe on the planet. Now the thing with Venus, there's two things that are odd about Venus. One, it actually spins opposite of the Earth. You know, it spins opposite of all the planets, and it's so hot that they say the surface could be, I think, hotter than the sun. The thing with when you have things like that, like for example, when Russia landed, you could see, and this is crazy, you could see as the thing lands on the ground. I think it took like 45 minutes before it sunk into the ground like quicksand. That's how hot the surface of Venus is. It's always shifting. Um, but we got a picture of a planet that it was hell. Now, I think if I'm correct, we've had more pictures recently of the surface and the air on the top. And then you have also another planet that's a whack job. And I'm saying whack job because it's actually on its belly. And I think that's Uranus. That is actually, spinning on its belly or something. So, there is so much to look forward in the science, technology, and where we're going to discover so many new things in the coming years. I mean, like, who would have thought Pluto had an atmosphere and it looked like the way it is? It took us 50 years or so, whatever it is, to finally get there. I remember how anxious I was when they were building New Horizon back, because I remember when they first launched it. I actually watched the launch on television, and finally waited until last year when it finally flew by there, and I was able to see what Pluto looked like, because that was me as a person that loves science. I were very anxious to see those pictures. In fact, I got very pissed off when they demoted Pluto to less than a planet. And
It's true, yeah.
Here's a Pluto, Chuck. Here's a planet that actually has two moons.
Yeah,
And not
yeah.
one, but yet they demoted as to one of the Kuiper Belt objects, whatever. And they say there's one further there than Pluto, whatever. They've been looking for Planet X, which they say there's a planet that there's enough pool beyond Pluto that they figure there's something there, but it just hasn't been found yet, And they're saying it could be twice the size, whatever. But the point is that, I still disagree with them on the Pluto thing. I still like to say 9 planets. When you buy new books to say 8 planets, I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I think a
sure.
lot of scientists feel the same way. But you know what? I really think that in the next couple of years, because of the way technology is going forward, we're going to discover a lot of things. And maybe why the government is doing this, maybe it is to deviate us from reality into something different, or confuse us, or throw us into a different thing so they can do another agenda that is hidden from us. I mean, that we know that is mostly what happens. But you know what, Joe? You yourself can admit, and you worked in MUFON for, what was it, 3-4 years?
Yeah, 3 years.
Okay, and you know what it's like, and you know what possibilities are out there, and you know exactly that 80% of the people you met were probably confused, that they had seen Venus and they thought it was a flying saucer, or they saw some sun reflection which reflected as a disk. And you said then the other 3% were total nuts, right? But my question that I want to ask you is, are you still in any way associated with MUFON?
No, I haven't been for years. No, it's probably been a good, oh man, 4 or 5 years, maybe 4 years.
What made you drop off? The fact that you couldn't find a flying saucer to bring home, or
I wish. It was a lot of things, and it really had to do with the organization and structure of the way it was. I mean, I don't want to get too much into it and not bash them or anything, because they are a good organization. I just, at the time, I wasn't happy with the way, and I heard that they had structured everything, and actually when they I knew the guy that was on top of the field investigator, because I had actually, at the time, I had actually sent in an email about some changes that I thought needed to be made on the state level. And the guy that was in there, not the state level guy, but the actual top guy at MUFON in charge of the field investigators, he was a very, I can't remember his name, but he was a very pompous type individual. And he kind of, you know, you know, it was either his way, you know, no matter if it was right or wrong. And
Wow.
I had brought my concerns and, you know, to him, and they were basically brushed off. And then when the new guy had come in, I had sent them to him, and I never got a response from the new guy. And I had left shortly after that, but I know that they had implemented at least one of my proposed changes into the way that they do things on the state level. So I was kind of happy to see, you know, some of the different changes that needed to be in there, you know, being implemented. But it's there's a lot of gatekeeping in the UFO circles and, you know, stuff like that. And it was, you know, there was just a lot of issues that I wasn't happy with. So, and I just decided just to part with them, you know, where I was. And, you know, but it was a good time there. Like I said, there was a lot of interesting cases that, you know, we went through.
What made you fall into, I mean, what made you actually join that group? How did you even get to know the group?
You know, because I think it was my second sighting. I seen two black triangles. I know we've talked about this in a past podcast, and I reported it to MUFON, and the field investigator got a hold of me. It was a lady who was nearby to me, and I met with her and talked with her, and she said, well, you have, you know, experience, you know, especially in law enforcement and investigations and all that. She goes, why don't you, you know, look at joining? So I looked into it, and I thought, yeah, you know, this could be, you know, pretty fun and all that. So I studied and, you know, took the test, which was actually a lot harder than I thought it would be. And, you know, that's how I kind of got into it. And when I joined up with Ohio, it was one of the other issues I had with it, you know, especially Ohio, is that we were so short on field investigators that they were giving me cases that were way out of my, you know, kind of like jurisdiction, I guess.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
You know, I'm in Northeast Ohio. I was getting stuff down in like Cincinnati. And I'm trying to tell them, like, hey, you know, you got to start giving me stuff in my area, not, you know, down that's out of my area. There's people down there that could handle them. And the problem is that, you know, we had, I think at the time, 7 field investigators on the books, and there was only like 3 or 4 of us that were handling cases. So the people in their areas, they were getting cases. And when you get a case, you have, I think it was 90 days to close it. And there was cases that were going, you know, 5, 6, 7 months, you know, over their 90 days because these people weren't doing anything with them. So then I would get the cases because I would close out my cases, you know, fairly quickly. I would, you know, I busted my butt, you know, trying to do it. And I was getting a lot of their cases. I was getting overloaded with no type of help. And it was just, it was a lot of work. And it was, I blame it on the person who was the head field investigator for MUFON at the time. Because like I said, he was not open to change, and that was trickling down, you know, the chain of command and the structure, and it was causing a problem on the state and local levels.
Yeah, that's always bad. That's always bad. Hey, a couple of years ago, Joe, we went to Kecksburg. They have an annual thing out there with the fire hall and everything. It was really cool. And so I met the most well-known investigator. I'll tell you, he's a good guy.
Yeah, I've met him a few times. Yeah, he's a real nice guy, man. He's
a very nice guy. And I stood next to him, and I had my wife framed and stuff, and he signed one of his photographs for me and everything. But yeah, he's a heck of a nice guy. I've been watching him for years, man. You know, with his investigations and UFOs, Bigfoot, everything. You know.
Yeah, he has a lot of. I've read a few of his books too. I've met him at Monster Bash a few times and listened to some of his lectures, and I picked up a few of his books. And he has some and he does a lot of leg work. And I mean, you start leg work. Yeah, you start reading those cases, and you know, I keep an open mind on everything. So
That's
When
right.
I'm kind of reading through those, there's a lot of interesting stuff there. And like
Oh,
I've always
absolutely.
said, I don't think there's a blanket answer for
There's not a
UFO.
blanket. No, you're right. There's not a blanket. No. Hey, the one thing that's cool about Kecksburg, Joe, is that they have a fiberglass reproduction of the supposed crash. The acorn shaped craft that crashed in what 1965.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, but back in 80 or 1981, somewhere in that area, Unsolved Mysteries, they actually came out to Kecksburg and they did a story. They ran a story about this, and so they built like a fiberglass reproduction of the actual craft. And so once the show was over, well, they told them, well, go ahead and keep that, so you can keep. So you know what? That's like a landmark type of thing where people go up during this festival, they get pictures taken. It's like really cool. It's like a 9 foot fiberglass acorn craft.
Yeah,
Do
and
you
we were talking about time theory and everything, and that whole case, Ketzberg. There's a lot of time theory
Absolutely.
involved with that, because one of the theories is that it goes back to the Nazi bell during
It
World
goes
War II.
it goes to the bell, and I think the chassis for this, the actual cement frame for the bell, is it Slovakia or something? It's all dilapidated, but that's the actual framework where they had this thing tethered, and so yeah, so supposedly this thing had spinning mercury in its centrifuge, and it was
Yeah.
yeah. So the Nazis were working on time travel, definitely.
Right. You know what I always thought was weird about Ketzberg is how quick the military responded to
Oh,
that crash.
you know
You
what,
know,
Joe? It's in the middle of nowhere. You know what? Our GPS got us lost. We had a hell of a time finding this place.
Yeah, and they responded there almost immediately. So, and supposedly this thing came out of nowhere. So how did they
Yeah,
know where
well,
where this thing was going to land, or how it even came into the area? I always thought that was interesting.
yeah.
yeah, but let me ask you a question to you guys. Did you guys ever see the UFO footage from Russia? It supposedly shows them on a UFO crash site, and you see the people walking around the saucer. I mean, that came out many years ago, but you guys ever saw that film?
No, I don't
No,
think
I
so.
don't think so. Uh-uh.
Yeah, that film came out. Look it up on Google or something. Russia's UFO crash, and there is some footage there that you see. I mean, it's first of all, it's too clear, and when you see the UFO that's on the ground there, that's
Hmm.
supposed to be footage that was escaped or whatever it is, top secret.
Oh,
But
wow.
when you look at the people walking around, they're taller than the UFO.
Oh, there's
I Because you also have footage from supposedly the Roswell, New Mexico crash. There's footage that
right.
shows some type of metallic things, and it's black
Hmm.
and white. I mean, man, in case you guys don't realize, I do sell original UFO material. If you guys want to buy, I got some lead from the landing sites, but anyway, that's just another
If it's
story.
coming from you, then we know it's got to.
It's real, it's got to be real, man.
But hey, guys, we're down here at the top of the hour here, so we got about 2 minutes. So, Chuck, take about 30 seconds and give us your final thoughts.
Hey, I'll tell you what, it's always a fascinating subject with UFOs, anything supernatural or paranormal. Thanks for having me, guys. Take care, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon. God bless.
Awesome, Eddie. 30 seconds. What you got for us?
Well, guys, we're planning to do a live show. It's going to be a special, not the podcast, but it's going to be a special for YouTube, and it's going to be great. We're going to be using StreamYard. I know Chuck is going to be in it. You, Joe, me. We'll have Dr. Fob and the famous, King of Sea Monkeys, Todd himself, the legend.
All right.
And
Sounds good. Can't wait for that, and I'm sure we'll
I'm going
have
to pick a
some.
date. By next week, I'll have a date that I can give the people so they can start looking forward for that day. And I'll post it so that online it will obviously be shown. So go ahead, Joe.
All right, sounds good. I'm sure we'll have some postings on houseoftheunusual.com of when that's going to show up. And we want to thank everybody out there for joining us. Stations that we have here, and check us out on your favorite podcast platform. subscribe to our channel, give us a good review if you would please, and head over to houseoftheunusual.com. Join up on our free email list there. And we also have a free forum that you could sign up for and join into some awesome conversations with some like-minded people. And check us out on YouTube under House of the Unusual. Subscribe to our channel. Give us a thumbs up on the videos. Eddie's always putting out some great content. And once again, Chuck, thanks for being here. Eddie, thanks for being here. And everybody out in podcast land, we are very grateful for you to be with us. So good night, everyone.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
God
Bye-bye.
bless.